And there we go. So this is the Creativity Talks with Crystal and Rene. And today we're going to be chatting with Justin Deeley, who is an actor. Justin, could you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Wow, blank. I'm from, I'll just start where I'm from. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, which is where I currently am. As we all have, I was here and then COVID happened. Story in mind is I had come back to my hometown to help a family business. So currently still here. But like I said, from Louisville, Kentucky, born and raised here, really. Grew up in a sports kind of world where I played it all growing up, and I had some success as an athlete in the football world and was mildly recruited, mildly. But I did go on to play college football at my hometown University of Louisville for a year. And when I was there, when I was little, I fell in love with acting. I was 9 years old. And my mother had taken me to see, my cousin was in a high school play or something. And I remember it was going one night, and then I asked my mom, "Hey, can we go again?" And she took me. My mom always pushed me for the arts, and then the men in my family were like, "He's a ball player, so we do that." So we went the second night, and I just was absolutely falling in love with acting. And when I got to college, there was an acting classes offered for, and so a lot of the football guys, we took them for an easy A, but I just happened to really was interested and just loved it. And football didn't work out, and I just had made a choice to leave football and get into the acting world. And that summer, I had found a study abroad program, a Shakespeare program in London. I think I was 19 at the time, and I went to London that summer. It was and it was never looked back from there. I saw Fool for Love I saw Juliette Lewis in Fool for Love in London. And then I saw a handful of Shakespeare plays at the Royal Shakespeare Company. And that was it for me. And I come back and graduated college. 3 weeks later, was on a plane, and my journey began. So I don't know if that was long-winded or
Not at all. Not at all. I love, actually, that story reminds me of Glee. Are you familiar with that show? The main character.
Did you say Glee?
Glee, yeah.
Okay. No, I'm not familiar with that show.
Okay, so the main male character is a football player who kind of gets suckered into doing the Glee Club and singing and dancing, and then he falls in love with it. So it's kind of
yeah. There's so many similarities to it. I mean, I think one of the biggest ones is the camaraderie that I experienced, especially in theater, and even in the I was very fortunate in finding a creative home. LA, I think that's so important for whatever kind of artist you are, whether it's just young artists, to find a creative home, whether that's for actors at an acting studio that you feel safe to explore and to continue to grow in your craft. If you're a singer, what have you, musician, you have to have a place where you can fail. And without it, and when you fail, it's tough to do. It's embarrassing. It's very vulnerable. I oftentimes compare it to football, because you go through things especially a collegiate athlete. The training process is so rigorous that you form a bond, because you're with people that understand exactly what you're going through, and that's what that's what joins the locker room. And that is what I experienced the first creative home in LA with Michael Wilson's studio that I found. And yeah, I was hooked. I mean, I to this day, it's what the theater and that's and finding those creative homes, which I still have today, is what keeps me, as artists, it's a roller coaster all the way. So it's about finding ways to continue to get better in your craft. And that's the only thing that keeps you motivated.
Sure. So how was creativity perceived in your home? It sounds like there was a little bit of the feminine versus the masculine perception. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I'm from Kentucky, which has certainly its stereotypes. I've often brought it up to casting directors or producers or directors in my career, And they often, you know, which I don't think is fair. They often take the stereotype and go, "Oh God, Kentucky," which I don't think that's fair, because Kentucky is a really wonderful place, and it's my childhood was really wonderful, truly. I mean, I don't have the I was, comparatively speaking, I had a very charmed childhood and very
Oh,
supported and loved childhood. But in terms of that, exploring exactly who you are, which is what art challenges you to do. And art, it requires it of you to be an artist of any kind. If you're not honest with who you are, your art will be dishonest as well.
wow.
Um, I would say that it's just, the reason it's not encouraged is because it's not believed that you can make a career out of it.
Yeah.
And look, I came back, so I was away for 13 years, LA for 12, New York for 1. COVID happened, and I was amazed. You know, there's the Buddhist, I don't know, Zen Buddhism saying that says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a weekend with your parents. Well, like I came back not only to my hometown, but I came to work with my dad, which has been great, but it certainly has its challenges. And one of them is that you come back to a place and everybody assumes you're the same person you were at 17, 18, even if they don't mean to. It's just people are used to patterns. And you know, the game here is, and you know, there's theater communities in Louisville, and there's people that are trying, and I've taught some acting classes here to try to cultivate that community that I know is so important, because I would have loved to have had it at 17, 18, you know. And there's a lot of talented people in Louisville that I've learned. But one of the challenges here is, I think, you know, what I've noticed is there is a sense of desolation and desperation around the arts. And what I mean by that is that, I'll just use LA, for example. In LA, you're always driving around studios and there's agencies everywhere. And even if you're not working, you know it's possible because you're around it all the time. Even if you're not booking, even if you don't have an agent. The same thing with New York. There's Broadway theater all the time. I mean, there's acting studios. There's all kinds of stuff. In Louisville, that doesn't exist. So people just go, "Oh, it's a dream. It's a dream that will never happen," as opposed to a goal that I can obtain. And that's what I find to be really heartbreaking here. And I didn't know that's what I grew up under until I gotten out. I come back and I see it. And so yeah, so it's just challenging to make people believe, no, I can make a living doing this, and I'm gonna do it. Whether I know it doesn't look like, I'm at 37, maybe at 37 I'm not gonna be where I might be in the corporate world at 37, but that doesn't matter to me. So
Sure.
Well, but you did find some success when you were here before COVID. Unlike, you know, a huge percentage of people that do move from wherever to LA never book anything.
that's true. I mean, look, I've had a very fortunate career. I mean, a lot of that is
Tell everybody what you did, what you've done, so that they know, in case they don't know.
okay. Yeah, so I you know, I took a chance out of college. It was December of my senior year of college, and I heard on the radio, back when people listened to the radio, there was a commercial that came on. It was like advertising some like showcase thing. I thought, that's whatever. And then I heard it 3 times. The third time I heard it, I was like, okay, well, let's just entertain it. So I reached out to the people. I figured it out, and I went in just to meet. And I just took a chance. I drove myself up to Columbus, Ohio, to do this regional showcase thing. And while I was there, I happened to meet somebody who said, "Hey, I know a manager that might love you in LA. If you're going to move to LA, might be interested in at least meeting you." And I thought, okay, great. So I followed a series of synchronistic events that kind of took place, that I just went with my intuition and gut. I mean, I know that sounds cheesy, but that's just how I what
Yeah,
happened to me, and it
that's what
led
the
to.
creativity talks is all about.
Oh,
Well,
really?
great. I'm right. I mean, I know, Renee.
Intuition.
I know
You're in good
that's the road.
company.
I know the artist way, and the artist way has been a life-changing thing for me. And
Yeah.
the book, and so I got out to LA, and I got a manager in like a couple of days, which is rare. That's so rare. And I was just really hungry, and
Mhm.
I trusted the manager a lot. A woman named Deborah Lynn Fendon at Discover Management, and she was really vital to me. I didn't know how fortunate I was until, years later, and then you find someone, there are a lot of snakes out there, man.
Mm.
And that was not her. And she put me in touch with Michael Wilson's studio, and I just found a teacher early on that taught me what it means to have work ethic in the acting world, who introduced me to plays, and and basically just turned up the heat of the flame that was probably already lit, the pilot light. He just put it on high. And I was fortunate to be around a lot of great young actors who today work all the time. And about 3 years, I was, I auditioning quite regularly, but not booking anything. And then I did a my first big like anything role was a co-star on 90210, the new one, the newer one, and I played a stripper, which at this time I think it was the 20th time I had been in, roughly 20th time I had been in to see producers, and the audition was. I don't think today they would ever do this, but the audition back then was they put on Britney Spears, A Slave for You. I'll never forget this. And I had 30 seconds, and there was like 7 producers in the room, and you basically had to do like a strip dance on this chair.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, nothing. I just took my shirt off. It's not like I took my pants off or anything, but I just basically got down to jeans and nothing. And, and 30 seconds is like an eternity when you're doing that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I have no dance background, like none. And I'm in fact a terrible dancer. I'm just not great. Whatever. I booked the thing, and I was like, okay, I did it, and I got the thing, and I had been in so many times, it just felt like I kind of crossed the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just worked. I did an indie film that summer, and there was an opportunity that came for a role for an 18 episode arc in the following season. And I had just read The Artist's Way by Julie Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Julie Cameron, right? Not Julia.
Yeah, Julia.
Julia. And I read that book, and I just started doing it all. I mean, to this day, I still do morning pages. It's been 2011, so 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I just bought in full boat to it all. And
Totally.
it sounds cool. I mean, that book changed my life in so many ways. And one of the things that happened shortly after was a role. I was doing some indie film in Michigan, horror film called The Wicked, shameless plug. And I put myself on tape for this new role, for this new character on 90210, that it was like, look, I'm probably not going to get this because I was just on the show as stripper guy or whatever. I was reading this book, and it just kind of said, go with it. What's one of my favorite things she says? Leap and the net will appear. Right. And that was kind of my thing. And I got that show, and that show, booking that role changed a lot of things for me. And I was able to pour more money investing in my career and where I needed to grow. And, I booked that, and then I did Drop Dead Diva for a couple seasons, and I did Geography Club, which is a film that to this day is one of my most proud moments. And, and then also I was fortunate enough to do a play, to do Macbeth in 2017, which is another thing I'm super proud of. And so yeah, I've booked up my share of guest stars, and I got to do some great theater, and it's been a very fortunate ride so far. It's been full of ups and downs, obviously. And I just booked. I just filmed Chicago PD, which was the first thing I had done in 5 years. So that's the roller coaster ride I'm on.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned something about honesty in how you show up to life and how that translates over to your art. Can you elaborate on what that means to you?
Yeah. I hope so. um, so there's this one great acting teacher, master teacher, one of the greats of all time, Stella Adler, and she has many books. But one line I remember the most from one of them is, "The nature of life is a lie. The nature of stage is the truth."
Mm.
And one of the great things about reading of any kind, but reading especially fiction and reading plays, for me, it's plays, is if you're not willing to go to the places that these writers ask you to go, which is, I mean, there's a phrase that I hear an acting teacher say: actors go where angels don't tread.
Mm.
Actors go where angels don't dare to tread. You just have to go to just the core of, you can't be afraid to go to the scary places. And
Yeah.
in that, in reading, reading any great poetry or any great fiction, it just brings up stuff, and if you're open to it, it's just part of growing up. It's part of growing as a person. And without it, you just, as an actor, you just act on top of it. And so if you don't know where it is inside of you, you can't, there's no way in your art it's ever gonna come out if you're not afraid, because the ultimate vulnerability is speaking from those places in your heart that are,
Wow.
they're so terrifying, that if you get rejected, that to me is what's so awful about rejection. When you're a kid, like, kids are wonderful to watch because they just are so authentically them. But you get rejected enough in childhood, or told you're crying too much, or you're too angry, and you're too this, that has a buildup. And as an actor, you just act on top of it all, and you never find. And I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of great teachers, with three specific great teachers in the acting world. I mean, who have really just pushed me and encouraged me in a safe way to just explore all that stuff. And I'm forever grateful to all of them.
The average person who's watching a play or a movie, or some YouTube show or whatever, people don't realize what goes into that. They don't realize what goes into a really well acted piece, whether it's stage or film. Um, and I feel like you almost take it for granted until you see a poorly done show. And then you go, I don't know why that was so bad. You have no idea what goes into an actor's training. And I'm sure it's a lot like singing, for someone to be able to sing that, perfectly 7 nights a week, twice on Sunday. There's a lot of work that goes in that, but then to sell the material the way the writer intended it and make you cry, that's
Yeah.
icing on the cake.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Especially singers. And I learned, so that's how I met Rene, is that I was in my acting studio, Michael Wilson studio, and there was this wonderful actor named Bo Markoff, who I always have admired, because he always did the things that scared him. And one of the things that scared him was singing and, like, songwriting. At least this is what he told me. This has been years since we had this conversation, like probably a decade. And he told me he started taking singing lessons from Rene, from this woman. He said, "Justin, you love her." He's just, that's how I met Rene. And because I think the voice to me is always a very vulnerable thing. I used to mumble a lot as a kid. I used to, and when people who mumble, it's just a defense mechanism for, if you feel stupid, it's just a way to kind of self-edit. At least it was for me.
Yeah.
And I learned, like, singing to me, I think, is one of the most, I mean, I can't even put words on most beautiful art forms there is of the voice. And I just wanted to learn. So I was, I learned, when I was just working, I thought, man, to do this 7 days a week and twice on Sundays, man, it's like, just the amount of craft you have to have, the amount of work that it takes. Most people just don't work hard enough. Just, it's that simple. It's a tremendous amount of effort. And and hours behind closed doors that nobody will ever see and nobody will really ever care about. Um, you know,
So have you used singing much in your acting career?
not in my acting career. I mean, I've auditioned for things where I had to sing. But still, one of the great, more prouder moments of my life is when Rene made me. She was the first person that ever said, "Hey man, you should just try to write a song." And I was like, "I can't write a song. What are you talking about? I'm not a songwriter. I'm not a writer."
Oh, this is great. This is so great.
Yeah, and then she said, "Well, here, I'll give you a little trick. So take a song that you love and just basically take it and then just rewrite the words." So that's kind of started it, and I kind of I thought, "Oh yeah, okay." And then so we just kind of played with that, and we did it for a while, and then eventually she said, "Okay, here's the deal. You want to keep working with me? You got to perform this." Basically, she just pushed me to face fears. And
Oh,
what's the name of that place, Renee? What was that?
Kulaks.
Kulaks. Wonderful venue in North Hollywood. I think in North Hollywood. And I had to get up there and sing stuff I wrote, which I think I did it like 2 or 3 times.
You did it many times. And here's how I remember it. You came in my mind, I forgot that you weren't a songwriter. In my mind, you came in as a songwriter because now that you mention it, I forgot I'm the one that said, "Why don't you write a song?" Because once he started, Crystal, he couldn't stop. He wrote so many songs. He always came in with a new song, and he already knew how to play guitar. He was a great guitarist. So I just remember how meaningful his songs were and how not shallow. None of them were shallow. And one of them was about his grandpa. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, your heart was just overflowing with lyrics and music and just heartfelt, beautiful sentiment, but that wasn't sentimental. It was deep. I had never met a songwriter like that. So in my mind, I forgot that you weren't a songwriter. I thought you came in as a songwriter. Now that you mention it, it's like I forgot. And so that road did not take you long. You were a songwriter waiting to hatch.
right. Yeah, it seems clear. And what
Well,
was that shift like for you? Like going from that identity where you're like, I can't write songs, I don't, and then suddenly this outpouring.
and I know because I know Renee works a lot with, you know, I think Renee, you have your own kind of um, the artist way is a big part of your life, and I know you've helped people through that in terms of being a guide and so that in that sort of way. And I don't know. Look, I think so much about being a great teacher, and which Renee certainly is. I mean, one of the reasons. I mean, look, it's been how many years, Renee? Did you say 8 years? And to me,
It's 6 and 8.
yeah, it's like great teachers impact people way beyond ways maybe they don't know. Maybe you do know, Renee. Because it's not just about the thing you're teaching. It's about what the gift that you give in terms of which is the bigger deal, which is allowing a person to the space to feel safe enough to just open their heart.
Yeah.
Which I mean, my fiance always says, she says, she's also an actress and she's a beautiful singer. And she always talks about, the world would be just a much different place if everybody just had a really good like acting class or art, really you could say an artistic class, because where they were forced to, not forced, but encouraged, I should say, to open their heart and have it received in a way that wasn't, especially today. I mean, everything's so like, it's so angry. And I just, it's cheesy to say this, but like speaking from the heart really matters. And when you have a teacher who knows how to facilitate a space where a person, no matter where they come from, what their background is, and usually like to the degree one can, this is the Prophet by Khalil Gibran that's I encourage anyone to read, but he talks about sorrow. To the degree one can experience sorrow, one can experience joy, which is why we hear these great poems come from people that come from lives that you're just like, wow, but they've been to these places inside themselves. And, it changes people. Great teachers change people in ways beyond they probably never know. Maybe they do, especially artistic teachers, because of what you facilitate for the person, which I am forever grateful for that experience, Rene. I hope you know.
Thank you. And now you are, maybe not full time, but you're a teacher now, and you're trying to facilitate and create space for people that don't have that in Louisville.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a surprising thing. There's a local agency in town called Heyman in Louisville, and I had just reached out through the encouragement of Christina, my fiance, and just said, hey, I'm just curious if there's any acting classes in the city. I just would love to have the community of people. And there's things I would like to offer young people that I would have loved to, I just wanted to take things I've learned and share them. And yeah, it's a true joy. I do enjoy teaching a whole lot. It's something that because I know what it can do. And I know how many people really want to be actors or singers or dancers or whatever, especially in this town, that just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do? Okay, I want to act. Okay. It's like most people like one of my favorite questions, how do you remember all those lines?
Yeah.
It's like, if that is the easiest part of any of it.
Wow.
What to do. I mean, just so many people don't know what to do, where to get started. And Rene, with songwriting, I didn't know. Yes, I love music. I mean, who doesn't? But I've many times dreamed about being a singer or whatever. I always said in another life I'd come back to the country music singer. Which Rene says I've wasted my voice on country music, which she's not wrong.
No,
I have learned.
I take it back. It's very sincere when it's not too commercial, right?
Well, I think what you mean is that the what we found, especially the range I can go.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what you were alluding to. Not that there's anything wrong with country music. More about that your voices can be like rock and roll, man.
Yes, that's true. You have that high range with that hard kind of sound if you want it. But of course, your songs were not like full of screechiness. Your songs were so sincere and deep, and I feel like they were family oriented and love related, but they had more depth, I think, than I expected from an actor for some reason. And we always had talks, Crystal, about, and this was during my note, when I was writing my book. And so we talked a lot about the phoniness of LA and the commercialism and everything you and I talk about on the creativity talks.
Yeah.
And so it was weird to have someone who was sitting in that petri dish of competition and all the bad things that you want to talk about LA, right? In that petri dish, but that could bring so much depth and true humanity and vulnerability to whatever work he was doing. Like, it wasn't just the song singing, it was the songwriting that would touch down. And we have our little lingo, we call that the internal realm. And so for Christina, your fiance, to bring up that idea that if everybody could just take a art class or whatever, what she's saying is, if only everyone were in touch with their internal realm,
Right.
the world we would have.
And I think Justin, your point, Justin, that you kind of have to reach in and touch the darkness a little bit in order to come out and embody a character that's meant to be multidimensional and not just kind of a flat, kind of straw man of whatever they are, right? How do you reconcile that in a climate, like in a culture like Hollywood, where there is a lot of whatever you want to call it, phoniness or commercialism, and yet the art that you're practicing is so deep in that it really requires that kind of embracing the darkness as a person? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you reconcile that with the culture, and where does that get to exist?
Well, I think, it's a great question. I I think again that for me it goes back to you make sure you have a space in which you are free to study the great plays. I'm speaking for actors now. Study the great plays and do great work. And especially today, I mean, to be a young actor today in this Instagram, TikTok world, I, you know, because the problem with what you're saying, like to me, social media has turned human beings into corporate brands.
Yeah.
And so we lose the individuality of a person because we're so concerned with what the outside says and thinks and what the narrative is. And can I just fit into the narrative? And can I just fit in here? Because, we all want to have our tribe. And I just think that, so it makes it even harder to go to these places that, it just, because you think, oh, well, it doesn't look pretty and filtered and whatever. Oh, if I just had so many followers, or oh, if I just had so many of this, it's just all, if there's any young actors listening, and I don't know if you're allowed to cuss on this thing,
Go
but
ahead.
it's all bullshit. It's just all bullshit. It doesn't help you as a human being. And for me, the reason I'm still doing this, even though I've had my ups and downs, and it's been a tough 5 years for me as an actor, just to not book and to get close on some things, and then the phone stops ringing for a while, and then just the uncertainty with it. But the thing that's saved me the most is I've never lost that community of people that I feel safe and comfortable, and the teacher, like I have, it's on Zoom, but I still have it.
Yeah.
Because he's in New York. I've never lost that space where I feel comfortable and safe to continue to explore what I want to explore and what I want to express. And I think that is just absolutely vital, especially to actors. And I know it's really tough to be young, but there's nothing more important than that. There's nothing more important than the work. There's nothing more important. No job, no award, no nothing. Again, his name's Carl Beery in New York, and he's got this phrase, and I just love it. And he said, he's a brilliant teacher, and he's a better actor. I mean, he's one of the better actors I've had the pleasure of watching. And he said, the best work I've ever done is in front of tens of people, because it's just classroom. It's such an important thing that he says, because that's where the best times are anyway. When you're struggling and you're struggling with people together. I mean, I've been on the trailers, and I've been fortunate enough to have to make us, to be successful in the business, and get a little bit of love from casting directors or what have you. And it's nice, and it's great, and it's awesome. And people have been very kind to me, but nothing touches the actual studying of the craft for me. And I think that's how I deal with it.
I love that.
That's the true creativity too, because you're not doing it for the likes. You're not putting the cart before the horse, or however you want to phrase it. You have a real love for the art form itself, which is your connection to your creativity, which is, you said the word vital. It's vital. We need it. We need to be interacting with our creativity in whatever form that takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, I can't believe how fast that went. We're already 40 minutes past the hour.
Oh, wow.
What do you want to add, Justin? At the end of our little podcast, Crystal does a meditation.
Okay.
So, or I guess meditation or a visualization of some kind.
Yeah.
And it sort of kind of loops everything together in an abstract kind of, I don't know, you can explain it better. It's more abstract, it's less heady and talky, and it's just more embodied in the creative practice that we talk about. But
Right.
I feel like, it did go fast, and I didn't want to step on your toes. And so what else can you tell us,
I don't know. I mean, this has been, there's nothing, I didn't really have anything planned, or I was really looking forward to just, I had no idea expectation. I was really looking forward to chatting and seeing you. And I think it's awesome that you're doing this, and your book. I need to, you have to tell me what the book is so I can get it. Because I
Yeah,
remember you were
tell us
writing
all,
it.
Renee. Tell us all what the book is.
The book is called The Creativity Connection / crossed out Conundrum, and it's on Barnes and Noble, and it's all about what is creativity, why are we creative, and how do we plug into our creativity and fit into the collective. And it's a very hopeful, inspiring read, even though it's a little harsh in the conversation. And I don't know if I use the word bullshit. I may. I don't know, but it's all,
No.
a lot of my research stemmed from some of our conversations at that time. So you were right there when I was trying to piece together what I was feeling, well, like what's going on in this culture. I don't get it because I'm, 60. So it was
Mm.
all like, what is going on? So, and you're at the, what are you? What are you called? Are you called a millennial?
I'm called him. This is one of my conundrum is that I'm 37. So I mean, I think I'm in the front end of the millennials. So like I didn't grow up with Google.
Right.
I was 16 when the cell phone became available to people, and it was emergency use only. Snake was the only game you could play. And it was like, to text was like 10 cents a text. Like when I was in college, I'd call a buddy and he'd text me, "What's up?" "Dude, you just called me 10 cents. Just call me back. Why are you texting? Don't text." Facebook was the first thing, and you had to have an edu address. So I'm not, I don't fit into the millennial thing where I'm not good with technology. I don't like, it all. I don't like all that. I mean, it's nice at times, but I miss just the flip phone. I miss, I don't need all the crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is distracting. I mean, it is. And
Right.
we didn't have Google. We had Ask Jeeves. Remember Ask Jeeves? Like, that was Google.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm a millennial, I guess, technically.
Right.
But
But then,
Adulted millennial, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't consider yourself a digital native. You're more of a digital immigrant.
Yes, that's a beautiful way of saying it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, when that culture shift happened, it's slapped me across the face, and obviously you felt it. Crystal, you are at the front end of it as well but like my youngest son Stevie was exactly 13 when all the YouTube things started hitting and people didn't watch TV anymore, they watched YouTube. So he's at 27, 28. So that 10 years between the two of you is a huge difference between even just my first kid and my last kid, that 10 years and the internet. So with the internet came this confusion about how to produce your creativity and all that. So you and I were trying to process that in our talks. And
Yeah.
so, and Crystal and I, because of the age difference, because I'm 58, and are you 32?
I'm 33.
33. So
Yeah.
that age difference is fantastic for our conversations because we're representing two demographics who are reacting with a very strong spiritual bent, regardless of if she's a millennial and I'm a baby boomer, right?
Mhm.
So that common ground that we have, just like really obsessing over what creativity is and how we're using it in technology, how we're using it in the arts, how we're using it person to person, solving problems. And as we're going to go into our meditation, it's really been a good thread to connect people. And that's what creativity does. It connects us.
Yeah. I love that point that you're making, Renee, that really creativity is, kind of like life in the sense that it's going to flow wherever is available. So whatever technology is or isn't available, creativity is going to flow there. Like the cracks in the pavement getting filled with wildflowers. Like it's gonna come alive no matter what, whether it's TikTok or whether it's cave paintings,
Amen.
it's just innate. So
Wow.
Yay, it is innate. Good word. Thank you so much, Justin. I can't wait to keep catching up with you because this is not the end of it. You're such a doll, and I love your spirit. And your perspective, because Kentucky is a very different place than LA, and it really shows just in your approach to saying things like fortunate, and just to say so many positive things about your upbringing instead of the other stuff that people say. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
applaud you for that, as just a fellow soul, for just keeping it really positive. And I tend to credit that to your parents and to Kentucky.
yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks. I'm so overjoyed to be here and see you. And I'm moving back to LA in the summer,
Yes.
so
Yeah, we'll see.
um, I'll be in the area again.
Okie doke. Thank you. Thank you.
All
Okay,
right.
I'm gonna mute myself, Crystal.
Okay, yeah, we can go ahead and get started with the meditation. So if you want to turn off your camera, you're welcome to do that too. And let's just go ahead and let the eyes fall shut. Let the spine reach up toward the ceiling. Find a bit of spaciousness in the spine and in the body. And just let yourself be pulled downward by gravity. Relaxing into the breath. Feeling the expansion of the breath on the inhalation and the contraction on the exhalation. Grounding yourself into the body, into this present moment, into the inner world that is the source, that's creative substrata for all of our desires, our expressions, our creations. Just centering yourself over and over and again with the breath. The breath is an anchor into this inner experience. And allowing whatever arises in that inner experience to be. So whatever's there is okay. Whatever narrative, whatever sensations, whatever experience is as it's meant to be. Embracing it as that rich soil that nourishes and feeds the creative life. Whether it's dark, whether it's light, whether it's good or bad. Maybe even letting those distinctions dissolve. And coming into a sense of embracing it all. And always returning the attention to the inhalation and the exhalation. Centering yourself in the experience of embodiment, of being here in this body. Each moment fresh, new, and never to happen again. And as you focus on the breath, staying open to whatever comes up. letting it arise without resistance, without pushing it away or pulling it towards you. And just letting it be. And remembering that you can take this with you, this space of openness and neutrality and acceptance. Even as you start to bring yourself into the space that you're in, feeling the sit bones on your seat. And as you're ready, gently opening the eyes. Thank you both.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Right. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.